then I think that nothing will change. So this is going to be an election where you make a statement. Let me tell you, we think the hospitals are important. And we think dealing with poverty is important. We think housing is important. Roads are important. Bridges and trains infrastructure is important. And talking about trains, what sort of party or government in 2017 will be getting rid of electricity and buying diesel? We create electricity in this country. We don't create diesel. We have to buy the stuff.
With American dollars.
With American dollars, yeah, American dollars printed by private banks.
Yes.
Which they lend to us.
Yes, and interest.
Yes. Don't worry, I've read the book. Ladies and gentlemen, can I just say what's going on in New Zealand is one of the greatest deceptions in politics anywhere in the world. We've got a government that claims that we're growing at 3% growth. And they say that's way better than nearly every other country in the world. It's not, of course, but they picked the right countries to compare it with. Excepting, if you're growing at 3% and your population is static, then that's real growth at 3%. But if your population is growing at 2% and your GDP is 3%, what's your real growth rate? It's 1%. Work it out. Your mum, dad, and you've got 3 kids. You decide to have 2 more. Unless you have more money in the house, then those 2 more means you're all worse off. Every mother and father knows that. We should know it also for our country. We're not growing at 3%. No, we're growing at 1%. And worst of all, the whole thing's generated by mass immigration. 73,000 net as we speak. That's 139,000 came in, but 73,000 stayed net. 73,000 compared to Australia. Australia's target is 80,000. This huge country has got 80,000 target. The UK, with 65 million people, has a target of 100,000. And little old New Zealand going bonkers on 73,000 net a year. It's all about consumption. But consumption has this awful problem with it. These people need houses, hospitals, schools, language education. They need everything as well. And they're doing nothing about that. In fact, it's so bad, they're not even building enough houses for the 73,000 who are coming in. Let alone the ones of us who are all here. And just last week, our population went to 4.8 million people. We're rocketing to 5 million like nobody's business. But we haven't got the houses, we haven't got the schools, we haven't got the hospitals, and we up in Auckland haven't got the teachers. Guess why? They can't buy a house. So they're heading out to the provinces. And Auckland's biggest crisis right now is not being able to get qualified teachers because they can't afford the rent or to buy a home. Where the average house price is $1 million.
And the average rate is $2,000.
Beg your pardon? Tell Key that. I can't, he's on the golf course in Australia. You don't get a rat's dairy about you. He was always a CV politician. He just wanted to be the Prime Minister. Come on, you might be a national supporter. Put your hand up if you can tell me just one good thing that John Key did in his 8 years. Yes, sir.
Put a smiling face on. That's all he did.
He put a smiling face on. No, I said, I mean, what good thing that he did for you? Yes. No, I said, what one good thing he did? There's got to be a National Party supporter here. Surely. Just one thing. And don't tell me about the flag. Ladies and gentlemen, can I just say, up in Auckland and around the country now, in Whangarei, where I come from, or out the coast of Whangarei, where I come from, we've got a housing crisis. We've got a housing crisis in Rotorua now. We've got a housing crisis in Hamilton. People are spilling out because you've got a government that's been saying that they've been building houses, but they haven't. We're not today with 4.8 million people. We aren't building as many houses as we built in 1974. And they're all over the crisis. All over the country there's a housing crisis. And a whole lot of young people, your sons and daughters, if they go to Auckland, many of them will never own their own home the way things are going. Now you can straighten that out. But let me make it very clear. You will not do it with any party that believes in mass immigration. And in Parliament today, you've got the Green Party that believes in mass immigration. You've got the Labour Party that used to call me racist and xenophobic because they said I was against immigrants, and I'm not. My party's always believed that immigration should work this way. Bring in people that you need, not people who need us. Is that clear? Bring in people that we need, not who need us. And we've never, ever been opposed to good immigrants who have come here and made it their country of choice, saluted our flag, whatever it is, obeyed our laws, whatever they were, had respect for other cultures and religions, and they believed that women were equal. But if you don't want to do those four things, my party says, as Princess Anne said when she fell off the horse and all those media were taking a photograph of her, my party says, you're not going to do those four things, then you can nap off. We want our country to be respected, and our religion to be respected, and our laws to be respected, and whatever our flag is, to be respected. And we don't want people marginalised. We've always believed in immigration, but this figure is madness. And yet I know that Labor is still arguing that 50,000 is sustainable. 50,000 is not sustainable. 50,000 is half of the UK's target. This economy, which is the sixth biggest one in the world. We say it should be 10,000. And that 10,000 will mean we'll bring in people who've got skills and who can help us in a whole lot of areas like science, medicine and other areas as well. But at the moment we are bringing in mainly unskilled people to drive wages down. And everybody here that's retired should remember this. When you drive down wages and have a low wage economy, and you're getting 66% of the net average wage, down goes your income as well. That's what's going on at the moment. Now that's not bad enough. You've got all these parties in Parliament saying that you're unsustainable. They're saying they can't afford you. They're saying that some of you old people are greedy. They want you to be means-tested. Even though you've worked 50 darn years and paid some of the highest taxes this country's ever seen, they want to take the super off you. They want it means-tested. That's what Gareth Morgan said. This guy's party's called Top.
He's not,
you know, Gareth.
He's a nobody, forget him.
No, you can't forget him, because some of you might make a mistake and go and vote for him. But he wants you to be means-tested. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you what I'll do, what we're going to do. We're the party that took away the means-testing. We're the party that got rid of the surtax, you remember, it was put on by Labor, increased by National. Well, we got rid of it. We're the party that made it not 65%, but 66% of the net average wage, not means tested, and we gave it the gold card. And the $500 a year rates, and we're going to move the amount up that you can qualify for so that it gets fairer, and we're going to bring in a concession for you who have got private insurance on your premiums. But we're not stopping there. I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to make sure that your power pricing for those who are 65 and over is much lower than it is today. We'll give you 3 doctor's visits, 3 free doctor's visits every year. And if only 1 in 100 doesn't go to hospital by getting to the doctor first, we'll save money. And if 2 don't go to the hospital out of the 100 by going to the doctor first, then we'll seriously now start making money. We're going to make an investment in older people, and we're going to give you something else as well. Because we've got thousands of people going blind or partially blind in this country in circumstances which are utterly preventable. We're going to give you 1 free eye inspection a year. Why does that make sense? Well, we've got thousands of people who are going out of the workforce because of eyesight. We keep in the workforce, we'll save money. It's an investment. It's all part of our policy. But let me tell you this. The Labour Party in 2011 and 2014 campaigned to put the age up. Didn't they? Now the National Party's arguing for it. The Green Party's keeping very mute, but they're for means testing of superannuation. Only one party believes in the universality of it, and that party's New Zealand First. And why do we say that? Because I know a stack of people who left school when they're 14, 15, and have worked 55 years. And these mean sods come along and say, oh, you saved your money, so you don't need any help at all. In short, if you're a waster, and to use my father's phrase, put it all up against the wall, then they'll pay you. But if you're a good citizen, pay your rates, pay your taxes, look after your families, look after your community, they don't want to know you. We don't think like that. And if you want to be guaranteed of the 687,000 people there are today on retirement, you want to be a guaranteed retirement in the future, there's only one party that's defended you through thick and through thin. And just one other thing I want to say to you. When they tell you that you're unaffordable, that super's not sustainable, they don't tell you that in the last 15 years, under these other parties' open immigration policy, in the last 15 years, 87,000 people have come from abroad and within 10 years got full super and the gold card, whether they paid any tax or not. And when we said this is wrong, they started calling us racist. Which country in the world would believe that's fair? That I can just go off to the UK, stay there for 10 years, now I'm on a full benefit. We can't afford that. That's not sustainable. And when we try to change the law, we got defeated in Parliament by the National Party. Prepared to defend that practice going on. Using New Zealand as a retirement home. And a stack of people, we all know this, came in from China, brought by their children, who parked them up in Auckland and then shot through. And the level of degradation and loneliness of those people knows no bounds because they can't speak English. It's sad what's going on in our name, but that's what these parties in Parliament have done. And one party alone has said this is wrong. We need to look after our old people first. House them first, employ them first. And that's what I'm on about immigration. I want to remind you of this. We'll always need immigration in this country. We always have. But we should bring in what we need in terms of a shortage of skills. But immigration should never be used as some lousy excuse for failing to educate, train, upskill and employ your own young people first. And whilst I'm at it, you know, Mr. Chairman, if it wasn't bad enough they were bringing in 73,000 net, in the last 12 months they gave 226,000 working visas out to foreign people. 226,000. That's up 17,000. And this year it's heading for the new target to 40,000 work visas. Whilst you got 92,000 young New Zealanders who can't get employment, training or a job. That are not in education, employment or a job. 92,000. Another 139,000 got no work at all. Not 1 hour a week. And in comes this government, the present administration, and the previous one was no better, and is allowing in hundreds of thousands with one objective, to drive wages down in this country. And if you want to see what a low-wage economy looks like, have a look at the United States, where 40 million people can't get any health services at all. That's not the future of the country we want, surely. And we are, and as a party, prepared to stand up against it. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say one thing about the railway line around here. It doesn't look too flash, does it? Every other modern economy is going for railways as hard as they can go, but not our one. We're going for the roads. As though, like some lunatic, you think you can possibly afford to maintain these roads with these leviathans coming down it? Those things should be on the railway track, for goodness sake. Where they are in every other part of the world, but not New Zealand. I did say we're going to give you your GST back on international tourism. Any royalties that are earned in this electorate, 25% at the very least will come back to this electorate, and any royalties on water will be coming to this electorate. It won't be going to Wellington under New Zealand first. We want local bodies and councils to have a fair go because they've got more and more responsibilities, and they're having one almighty row with you, the ratepayer, because central government is squeezing them and giving nothing back at all. There'll be a question time. Don't get it. This is not the Labour Party where circus goes on. Ladies and gentlemen, so the royalties on the water will come back to Selectmen. Any mining or any extraction here, including forestry, the royalties will come back to this electorate, and GST on international tourism as well. What we need in this country is to do what we used to do when good governments, first Labour in the 30s and then National, decided that we would be a country where nationalism was important. Indeed, the National Party, when it started in 1936, they called themselves National because they wanted to signify that they were for this country. Well, the capital N's gone. They're globalists now. They couldn't wait to sign up to the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. What a circus that was. It wasn't even about a fair trade deal. It was about international corporates being able to sue the New Zealand government if anything that we did here by way of a democratic decision and an act of parliament ever was against their interests. That's what they signed up to. And luckily the guy with the funny haircut in the United States got in, and he said that's the end of it. Remember what happened there? All three candidates, that is for the Democrats and Liberal Party and the Republican Party, we ended up against the TPP. But not in New Zealand. And guess who started the TPP negotiations? The Labour Party. Have you forgotten? The Labour Party started those negotiations. Let me tell you that we have not got better off for all these trade deals, quite the converse. And if you know what the Chinese and the Japanese and the rest of Asia is like, then they put their own interests first, and I understand that. But my question is, why is New Zealand putting its interests first in terms of our resources and our ownership? I just want to finish before question time by saying this is going to be a make or break election. I've been in politics a long time, longer than most. I've seen some doozies in my time come and go. In fact, if you look at Parliament, Rob, I've got to tell you this, if you look at Parliament and look at some parliamentarians, it's living proof that New Zealanders can take a joke. It is. You know, you have a look at some of them, and they're a politician, right? And they'll double cross that bridge when they come to it. You know what the definition of an honest politician is? When he's bought, he stays bought. Yeah, look at the National Party right now. They're making all sorts of decisions. When did McKelvey ever get up and say, I represent Rangitikei and we don't think like Wellington? When did he ever say that? But then again, he's on the rich list, isn't he? And you get one after the other who's never stood up for their electorate. Well, I want somebody down here who's prepared to stand up for the Rangitikei and put your interests first. And we are a party that believes in the provinces, believes in the regions, and we've had a total gutsful of having a raw deal. Of always having to go cap in hand for the most modest things, whilst in Auckland they get everything. Tunnels and roads and this and that, none of them make any economic sense, whilst down here the people that drive the economy and bring the real wealth get marginalised, Cinderellaised and forgotten. You vote for us, we'll stop that. This is a decisive election on the 23rd of September. If we don't win this time, I know what the future's going to be, because I've seen it. In other parts of the world where the decline just goes on and on and on.
Venezuela.
And just in case, Venezuela, Uruguay, Argentina, I've seen the face of what's coming here, unless we turn this around. Now just one thing I want to say about this election. We're a reasonable party actually. If you can't bear not to go and vote for one of those silly old parties, of course your mum and dad used to. I'm a reasonable man. But for goodness sake, you got a party vote, buy yourself some insurance. You'll never regret it. Thank you very much. Any questions? Look, if you shout the question out, and make sure it's a question, not a speech, I'll repeat it. And if you nod your head, I'll know I've been accurate about it. And then I'll try and answer it. And if Rob and I can't answer it, we'll tell you before it's patently obvious. The guy went on the back. You asked me about a referendum on the criminalisation of medicinal cannabis, right? Let me tell you what our policy is. I'll have the question.
Timothy,
I got your question. The legalisation of medicinal cannabis use. New Zealand First believes medicinal cannabis should be legalised now, but if you want recreational cannabis, we're going to put it to a referendum. If you can live with the results, so can I. Yes. Aerial dropping of 1080. Look, there in the world, everybody's given up on 1080 but us. 1080 is a very dangerous product. We should have spent a lot of our research money trying to find an alternative, and we haven't. And astonishingly, you got Forrest and Bird and others defending the use of 1080. I want to make it very clear, we are going to put millions into finding an alternative. When we can possibly stop using it, we'll stop it now. We're going to turn it into an industry. We're going to pay people a trap, turn it into a fur industry. We're going to, wherever we can, stop it as soon as we can. But in the meantime, there are parts of the country where we haven't got an alternative. But New Zealand First is dead against the continuation of 1080. We do not think any of the assurances that we're receiving from these so-called professionals in the Ministry of Prime Ministries are accurate. We are spending hundreds of millions on this failed product when we should be able to find an alternative. We will do that as fast as we possibly can. But we should be exporting the stuff. We should be turning it into a fur industry. We should be turning a problem into a serious export potential. And if we did that, rather than using hundreds of millions on 1080 and aerial dropping, we'd start turning the problem around. Yes?
Mr. Peters, we've had a few questions from online that couldn't be here today.
Well, they can't be here, they're not going to get a question.
Well, no, this is a question.
Who came first?
This is a question that I've quickly got for you, sir. Will you make power distribution a non-negotiable before any coalition government can be formed if you become kingmaker?
Well, I don't like the F part, alright?
Sorry, when?
Well, it's in the good book. It's in the Bible. Any man who sets his hand to the plough and looks backwards is not fit for the kingdom of heaven. Right? Now, politics is not heaven. But you get my point, don't you? We're not going into a campaign on ifs. We intend to win this election. And we're on the way to it. Now, let me say, having said that, I just gave you a long speech about power pricing, and you got up and doubted my word. Come on. Put your hand up when I ever broke a promise. Not what the media said, but you put your hand up and tell me when I didn't keep my word. Come on. There's got to be a Labour person here who says I don't keep my word. Or National. But I do. I intend to come back after the election. Show you that I have done what I've said I'm going to do. Yes, that gentleman there.